You still think of yourself Chinese, or do you ever think of yourself as North American?
Asian piece of
Go back to whatever Asian country you belong in.
You're so Asian.
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 A wave of violence against elderly Asian Americans.
Crimes against Asian Americans have risen drastically.
Another man knocked to the ground in broad daylight.
So tired of living in fear.
All I can think about is what if it happens to my dad?
Wake up. I want him to stay alive.
You know what I want to think of myself? As a human being.
Asian Americans are in a very unique situation where they face many challenges, but don't really have any allies. Not even Asians in Asia. So let's talk about why that's the case and what Asian Americans can do about it. Now, intuitively, you would think Asians in Asia would support Asian Americans, but that is not always the case, because if you think about the main challenges Asian Americans face: racism, discrimination,
Asian, I will kill you all Asian. It's just like we're buying food.
hate crimes,
I shouted for help, but nobody helped me.
and never being considered real Americans.
That I don't look American enough. This is sustained from my service in the US military. Now, is this patriot enough?
An Asian person in Asia will find all these challenges completely unrelatable. Most Asians in Asia will never experience racism unless they travel overseas or purposefully consume Western media. And even if they are aware of anti-Asian hate in America, most of them don't care because it does not affect them personally. Also, even though Western society has a habit of lumping all Asians together, not all Asians are the same. There are almost 50 countries in Asia. They are all very different and proud of their own unique history and culture. And that history also includes a lot of conflict and hate. You always hear people say, Asians cannot be racist against Asians. But that's completely untrue. For example, many Chinese and Japanese people hate each other, especially the elderly, because Japan invaded China during World War II and killed millions of civilians. Not to mention there are many ongoing conflicts between Asian countries right now. The point is, even though racists like to treat all Asians the same and tell us all to back to China, an actual person from China might not care if a hate crime happened to a Korean. Likewise, someone in Japan might not care if they see news about hate crimes against a Chinese or Indian American. While Asian Americans are often united by our shared struggles, Asians in Asia are not. And this brings me to my next point. Some Asians in Asia do not consider Asian Americans as Asians. They only consider them as Americans, which ironically is what a lot of Asian Americans want from other Americans, which makes sense because most Asian Americans are born in America, or they chose to move to America and become citizens. And since many Asians in Asia are very nationalistic, they look down on that and no longer consider them Asian. There also tends to be a clash between Eastern and Western values. In the West, it's all about individuality, choice, freedom of speech and expression, while in the East, it's all about social harmony, duty, and respect for authority. That's why some Asians in Asia don't care for Asian Americans, because they are too westernized. And this is also the reason why Asians in Asia tend to stay quiet about social injustice. The societal norm is to keep your head down, mind your own business, don't cause any trouble, and even to discourage social movements like Black Lives Matter and Stop Asian Hate. But as Asian Americans are now learning the hard way, it only makes you look weak, an easy target. Now let's talk about Asian Americans and white America, aka Western society. Now just to be clear, I'm not talking about all white people. I'm talking about society as a whole. What I really want to focus on is, why is it so hard for Asian Americans to just be treated like normal Americans and individual people? Why are Asian Americans always viewed as foreigners? Even though Asians have been in America since the 1800s, why are Asian Americans told to go back where they came from, even if they were born in America? Why are Asian American athletes told to stop taking medals away from white Americans? Why have so many Asian Americans given up on fighting against racism? And why do we have to constantly constantly deal with this.
A good Asian doesn't act like a smart ass when I ask them where are they from. Oh yeah, America. No, where are you really from?
Now what's interesting is, if we look at Asian American history, it makes sense why we face the challenges we do today. Chinese immigrants first arrived in America in the 1850s to work in dangerous low-wage mining and construction jobs. They were called the Yellow Peril, here to take white jobs. Over the next decades, Chinese people were lynched and killed without repercussion. And in 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act was passed, which banned all Chinese from immigrating to America. During World War II, Japanese people in America, including American citizens, were forced into internment camps. And in 1982, Chinese-American Vincent Chin was killed by 2 white men because they blamed him, a Chinese-American, for the Japanese auto industry causing them to lose their jobs. Neither of his murderers received any jail time. The point is, Asian Americans have never been viewed as true Americans or individual people by society at large. So it makes sense why that's still the case today. And it makes sense why the entertainment industry had white actors do yellowface. And it makes sense why the majority of Asian characters in media are written as embarrassing clowns where the joke is that they are Asian. And it makes sense why so many serious Asian characters are played by white actors. Only now do we finally have some well-written Asian characters in media who are just normal people. Characters who are more than just an Asian stereotype doing 12-year-old Ching-chong accent humor. Now let's have some fun and talk about whataboutisms.
What about that guy in Asia, the black guy? They were racist against him. Nobody's talking about that though. You're not the only one experiencing racism.
Basically, anytime an Asian person brings up discrimination, suddenly everyone will say, but what about black people, Hispanic Americans, LGBTQI+, vegans? They all face discrimination too. It's not just Asians. Yes, many people face discrimination. But that doesn't mean it's okay to ignore discrimination against Asians. Why don't you just stop discriminating against everyone? Another fantastic whataboutism is, what about Asians in Asia? They are racist. What about the CCP? They are bad. What does any of that have to do with Asian Americans? Asian Americans are getting killed, assaulted, abused for no reason at all. And your justification is, some people in Asia are racist too. What? If you meet a racist Asian person, the right response is to call them out. Not go and beat up some random Asian grandma. And my personal favorite, why do you talk about discrimination when Asian Americans make the most money? You have a Rolex. Stop complaining about racism. That argument is as stupid as when people were complaining about Kendrick Lamar rapping about racism because he was rich. Just because some minorities can be successful doesn't mean racism and discrimination doesn't exist. They are successful despite racism and discrimination. And then we have, it's just a joke.
Hiya, Ching Chong Ding Dong. Relax, it can't be racist. It's comedy.
It's bizarre. In modern society, you can just be racist and hide behind it's just a joke. What's worse is Asian Americans let people get away with it, which only encourages them to do it more in the future. And when Asian Americans do speak up, they are told, don't be so sensitive.
What?
And when you combine all the dismissiveness and whataboutisms, it's understandable why, over time, so many Asian Americans eventually stop bringing awareness to their struggles, and sometimes even start suffering from internalized racism, which destroys their self-esteem and makes them even less likely to stand up for themselves in the future. Asian Americans are not the only minorities in America, and we all share similar struggles, and we all have a common enemy, racism. And we all know we are more likely to succeed if we all work together. However, all minorities will rightfully look to solve their own problems first, which is why it's so important for Asian Americans to understand this. We have to be the ones to lead our own fight. No one respects people who won't stand up for themselves, and you simply cannot expect other people to fight your battles for you. It felt like every single person was involved in Black Lives Matter. The entire world joined in. The movement will go down in history. Part of that is because Black Lives Matter was built built on a strong foundation of Black Americans standing strong and united against social injustice. But Stop Asian Hate barely built any real momentum. We simply did not fight hard enough for long enough. If you never challenge the status quo, then nothing is ever going to change. That's why we all must start doing more to fight back against anti-Asian hate. And here are 5 ways we can all start doing that right now. When you are accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. When you tell some people it's not okay to be racist, they will feel like you are trying to oppress them. That's why we must expect pushback and opposition anytime we spread awareness about anti-Asian hate and racism. The whataboutisms, the dismissiveness, the stop being sensitives. So don't be discouraged. No pushback will happen, and be ready to challenge them. And if someone tries to play off a racist comment as a joke, tell them, no, it's not a joke, and I would appreciate it if you stop saying that in the future. By saying nothing, you are allowing it to continue. And look, sometimes people genuinely don't know they are being racist, so it could be a great learning opportunity for everyone. And if someone tries to tell you social activism is pointless, tell them to look up human history. Sri Lankans overthrew their corrupt government in 2022. Then we have the civil rights movement, women's suffrage parade. History is full of examples of people who should be powerless, causing societal change. Challenging racism is never pointless. Recently, I saw a video of 2 Asian teenagers defending an Asian grandma against a racist. We should all be proud of them. And this is a great reminder that for your own safety, please get in good physical shape and learn self-defense. You must be able to defend yourself and your loved ones when trouble comes looking for you. I know some people will say, I don't want to cause any trouble, I just want to avoid conflict. But look, the conflict is already here. It's not avoidable. You should never go looking for trouble. But if someone wants to bash Asians, they are not just going to leave you alone if you say, no, I don't want to be involved. So please, learn some self-defense. Most people do not know how to fight. So if you know the basics, it could save your life. And that's action step number 1. Become physically and mentally strong so we have the confidence to challenge hate. One thing every Asian can do is raise awareness and support the people raising awareness about anti-Asian hate. Small things like liking, commenting, and sharing news reports about anti-Asian hate crimes. Supporting organizations like Stop AAPI Hate, at the very least on social media. Supporting your local grassroots movements. Even just acknowledging their good work makes a world of difference. If you have family and friends in Asian countries, educate them about anti-Asian hate and how they can spread awareness. Because ultimately, racists hate all Asians, not just Asian Americans. And share your experiences with friends on social media, Reddit, whatever you feel comfortable with. It all helps in the end. Action step number 3. We must actively challenge self-hating Asians. If you don't know what self-hating Asians are, I made an entire video about it. Basically, self-hating Asians are Asians who hate being Asian, and they encourage people to be racist against Asians. The long-term goal is to help self-hating Asians learn to love themselves and respect who they are. But for now, just tell them to shut the up. When you see a video like this, don't be this insecure kid seeking approval from racists and giving them permission to be racist. Be this legend here and challenge the self-hating Asian. Whenever I tell people to leave comments or speak up on social media against racism, some people always say, that's not going to change anything. But for better or worse, modern society is influenced by social media. And if we allow racism against Asians to spread unchallenged, then of course that's going to normalize racism, especially for younger people.
Stop eating so much cat and dogs and bats with your nasty ass and red.
Everyone uses social media. You don't think countering racism on social media is going to help? Of course it will. So leave comments against racism. It helps. You don't even have to show your face to do it. And once more and more of us start taking action, naturally we are going to empower other Asians who are currently bystanders to start taking action too. People will join our fight against racism because in the end it's not just about Asians or other minorities. Every good person is against racism. If we examine society right now, Everything is a battle for attention. Because if you have attention, then you have influence. And then you can start to shape people's beliefs and behaviors. That's why we must speak up, or else our challenges will always be overlooked and the discrimination will continue to shape our lives. So stand up for yourself and fight for a world that judges you by your actions and words and not the color of your skin.